Hey everybody. First and foremost, thank you, Willie, for putting on this event. This is awesome. I got into real estate really kind of by mistake. I sold a condo in Florida and I was like, I can't believe this guy just made all this money doing an absolutely terrible job. I didn't know what was going on. And my listing expired. I had no communication, no direction. I felt like I was doing all the marketing. I was telling him how people should be walked through the house. I was having all these ideas. And then I moved home for the summer and I was like, oh, well, what am I going to do? And a great family friend who was a great mentor to me, Bonnie Sindel, was like, hey, I'm really busy. You should come see what real estate's about. And I was like, and then I got hooked. It was really that easy. And to getting into the business was tough because I didn't know how to have it. I wasn't disciplined at all. I thought it was just going to come to me. And I have to say, like, the biggest change in my life was getting the right mentors and the right support that Christine and other people have talked about. Because if you don't have people holding you accountable and help teaching you how to do it, all right, that's it. That's it. And Brenda is one of my mentors, so she cuts it in. That's it.
I know some people are up there going, what is she doing? What is she doing? But they are very good friends and they like to kid each
Bestie.
other off. So
That's it.
they're besties. But so yeah, finish if you're, you want me
That's
to hold
it.
Brenda back?
That's it. No, we're good. So I kind of just got into it by choice. And when I found that, I could help people and make a living and make a difference in my community, that was the trifecta for me.
Awesome. Okay. Brenda.
Hi, isn't this a hoot? Yeah, this is good stuff. I am Brenda Mayette, and I got my license in July of 2009. The path that got me there was healthcare, and that's such a stable career path that I experienced 2 layoffs within a year and a half. I started as a clinical dietitian. I ended up running the nutrition services, purchasing and receiving departments at Bellevue Women's Hospital. When Bellevue and Ellis merged, bye-bye Brenda. I then became the director of medical education for the American Heart Association. And when the first quarter of 2009 hit, bye-bye Brenda. So since the economy was so strong, I had no choice but to go into real estate, right? I was a kid that went to open houses with her parents every weekend and always thought that real estate will be something I do when I'm old because, hey, it's pretty easy. So not easy. No. So July of 2009 is when I got my license, and here we are.
Chris.
I started in May of 2007, and I'll talk about this more later, but relationships, and it was a relationship with Ken Raymond, who's broker owner of Coldwell Banker, who called me in probably March of 2007 when I sent out a bunch of resumes when I was getting out of the golf business and said, you always have an opportunity with me. And I started May of 2007. I was 24 going on 25. And I was naive. I was young. Thankfully, I could sacrifice and work hard at it. But the market changed right at that time, and I didn't know any better. And some of my office managers and mentors said, if you can make it through this, you'll make it through anything. And it's been a great industry, a great business. One of the reasons I chose real estate to begin with is I always thought it was a sexy subject or a fun subject to talk about. I had some other opportunities at the time, and one was selling medical equipment and science equipment. And I'm like, it's not fun. It's boring to talk about, in my opinion. And real estate, everybody, how's the market? So, it's been a great run. It's hard to believe it's been 15 years already. And I appreciate this opportunity. This has been great. I just wanted to mention this real quick. This has been so professional. I mean, it was funny. We first started this process back in June or July, at least Willie inviting the panelists and the different meetings that we've been involved with. We did a walkthrough last night. It's been really nice to have this in our backyard, convenient for everybody. And I thank you all for coming too.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Chris. Appreciate that. And Miss Fran Callahan.
Well, I'm doing the math here and I was like 15, 13, 6. I do not make up the 100.
Well, I was saying collectively, Brian, I got 25. Brian's got, I don't know, a lot of time. No, collectively.
Yeah.
So,
So I have a degree in marketing. I've always worked in some sort of sales. I sold media for years. And I got to a point 22 years ago where I thought I didn't want to sell anymore. And Dan O'Brien at the time, I knew Dan from years ago, and he was working at the company that I used to work for. And they were looking for a relocation director, and I thought, gee, I have a ton of connections, and I'll approach him about that. And of course, then I spoke to the broker, and he was like, oh, all these people. And well, so here I am in sales another 22 years later. But yeah, it's been a good run. It's not the easiest job in the world. It's, but it's a job. That's what a job's all about. So.
Well, awesome. Thank you guys so much for introducing yourselves. And we're just going to dive in because, again, a lot of them have experienced a changing market like we're going through, and a lot of you haven't. So I really wanted to dig deeper into that. Brenda, I'll start with you because you said you started at a great time, right? 2008, 2009. You guys know what was going on. I think we had about 14,000 home sales or active listings, I should say, to pick from. We were in a huge buyer's market. It was probably the shittiest time you can get into business, and you got into it. So how did you get through that to where now you're transitioning, going through COVID and what you're seeing today, and how are you keeping your numbers strong and keeping really your sanity? I knew I'd get on that one.
Mama likes vodka. That was a big question, really.
Big question.
There was a lot. So let's go back to the beginning. Christine mentioned we started with Brian Buffini's 100 Days to Greatness, and I came from that employee mindset. So when we had the weekly meeting and you were given your checklist of things between now and next week, you should do 20 pop buys and 900,000 phone calls and introduce yourself to everybody that you've ever known. I did it because my boss told me to, right? And it literally took me, I'm a processor. It literally took me 3 years to understand that I'm an independent contractor. But as silly as that was, that's what helped to drive me toward that focus. Every day I got up and I went to my job. My job was in the other room, but I had my mission and I did it. And I'm very, in my Bellevue days, I received the accountability award. I was one of the few directors that actually went to her VP with the numbers. Surprising, right, Willie?
Yeah.
Willie laughs whenever we meet. I have my numbers. Like Shana mentioned, you can reflect on those numbers to identify your success or your opportunities. So that's what I did.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned, and I think it's huge, there's a difference between an employee mindset and an entrepreneur mindset. And like I said before, we're all public figures, but we also have to be entrepreneurs. And for the most part, I think that's a big change. That's a big adjustment. But I do remember when Brenda first started, she was going through 100 Days of Greatness. And I remember you had to do 5 notes. You had to do 5 calls to your database. You had to do pop buys. And I remember like 6 months into it, I don't think you had one sale at that point. And she was like, why don't you go ahead and tell us?
So I got my license in July. My first closing was in December and my second closing was in March. My husband, who was used to me bringing home a paycheck every 2 weeks, was like, so we're doing this? So I'm very competitive by nature. I'm a softball mom and failure's not ever an option. And a friend of mine had said to me, that's cute. Do that for a little bit and then go get a real job again. And I was like, she doesn't know to this day how much that, I'm going to say it. Sorry, Gio, how much she pissed me off. But that drove me and it continues to drive me to this day. So, and in the midst of it, I had a child in 2nd grade and 7th grade and all of their extracurricular activities and all of that. But we all had the same 24 hours in a day, right? So it's what do we make a priority? What drives us? What's our why? And get her done.
Yeah, and I got to say, when you came to me with that, and you said, my husband's giving me a hard time, this is what's going on. I said, Brenda, you're doing all the right things. You're doing the calls, you're doing the notes, you cannot control the results, right? We can only control the activities that we do on a day-to-day basis. And that's what you're going to see as a commonality amongst all the speakers is that they have a daily goal that they have for doing their activities. They're doing things consistently on a day-to-day basis. So I'll switch over to David right now, just to kind of talk a little about, your beginnings of getting into real estate and what changed. And you had a couple comments last night that you said that you really feel took your business to the next level. Maybe you could talk about that.
Sure. All right. So I got in on a team and I was eating well, but Zillow did not recognize me as an agent with any sales because back then the team leader got all the sales. I said, well, I'm going to go out on my own and do it for myself. And a year later, I was like, this is not working at all. A friend of mine who, was a broker, had a huge impact on me. Mike Field was like, come work with me. I can get you to 40 deals. I was like, you get me to 40 deals. I'll do anything you tell me to do. That was go to a conference like this on a bigger format and hear from people who are successful. And the 2 things I took away from that day was 1, I wasn't calling enough people consistently. And number 2 was I was trying to reinvent myself in a day. And I had to learn that I had to just try to get 1% better every single day. And the more contacts I made, the more appointments I would go on. And it was just math. And I was like, whoa, it can't be that simple. And then when I looked at the year previously, I'm like, I wasn't tracking or measuring anything at all. You know, I was like, oh, okay, like I'm just going to get referrals. I'm cool. I know people. It's going to work out. And it didn't. I was struggling. And I made a commitment that by August of that year, if I didn't hit some deals and start moving in the direction I want, I was going to go back to healthcare. And in April, I was at my birthday. It was a few months after that. I've been calling, I think it was 25 people a day. And I hadn't sold anything. And I was devastated. And, you know, Mike said to me, and I'll never forget this. He's like, don't quit before the miracle happens. May, I did 6 deals. June, I did 11, and I was off to the races, you know, and you have to pick your target, guys, and stick with it, like no matter what. And it can't be someone else's target. You know, Brenda touched on your why. It can't just be money, like Christine said. It has to be what you're going to do with that money. What's the impact? Think about that, because it's easy to do the things you don't want to do when you want to do them. It's hard to do those things when you don't want to do them. So that's where having a why really makes a big difference, and just try to get 1% better every day.
Awesome. I want to say something about David too. Got married, supposed to go on a honeymoon, delayed it to be here. He's going tomorrow. So
Tonight, yeah. Well, you know, going to things like this has changed my life. You know, I got inspired by people I've met that have made huge impacts on my life. I mean, my mentor was my officiant, and I met him at my first conference, and he's helped guide me through. So, I mean, I wouldn't be here without conferences like this. That's why when Willie gave me the opportunity to speak at this, I was like, absolutely, I'm all in. And guys, like, if you can, go to as many of these as possible, and don't try to do everything. I always tell people this when they go to someone new, like, pick one thing, and just commit to it, and don't give up before the miracle happens.
that's commitment right there. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right, Fran. So Fran, you've been through this a couple times with this market changing. We talked about it as well. And the conversations change, right? When someone gets into the real estate business, especially in the last couple of years, it seems easy, as everyone was saying, right? But it changes. Conversations change, expectations change. Maybe you could talk a little about what's changed and what we as a group should be really focused on going into this change to be successful in this business.
Well, I think we were talking about this either last night or earlier today about the a self-fulfilling prophecy too. So if everybody's running around saying, oh, the market's horrible, you know, what you hear is your reality. So, you know, we still have a shortage of inventory for our clients. We just have to set the expectation perhaps with our sellers that it's not going to be that where you click and then there's 10 showings and, you know, you're just sitting there going, when am I going to send out the multiple offer notice? You know, you just have to do your job every day. It's a job. You know, follow up with your people, setting expectations. That is to me, one of the key things in our business. You know, we put a price on something, we are putting what we think is the proper starting point. If they're not getting showings, they've missed it by a certain amount. If you're getting showings, but no offers, that delta is smaller, but it's our job to let people know that if we're not getting showings, you know, lower the price, or, you know, you can only do a certain number of things. You can't make it any bigger or smaller. You can't move it. You can only make improvements within reason. And then it comes down to price. Everything sells when the price is right. So we just have to adjust to this market. Instead of thinking everything's going to be running up from where we price it, we may be negotiating from there. So,
Chris, I know we talked about it as well. Set the expectations, not only with sellers, but also with other agents that you're communicating with and doing transactions with. Elaborate a little bit about has to change or what you're seeing now in the shifting market as to what agents really need to be focused on.
Yeah, I would say hone in on your skills, pay attention to details, and work your relationships. You know, we still have an inventory shortage. So what's incredible right now is the interest rates have risen so much in the last 9 months, 10 months, but still see competitive situations. You still see turnkey properties that are selling, you know, things of that nature. You have to be a little mindful of the time of year. Pricing is critical. I mean, it's absolutely critical, and setting expectations, as Fran mentioned. You know, it's not 6 months ago. It's not a year and a half ago. And that, unfortunately, some of those sellers have missed that window or still thinking about that window and maybe kicking themselves. So you have to be very, very mindful right now. It is changing. It's evolving. Every home is different. Every transaction is different. Every set of clients is different. So, you know, it's having those tough conversations up front, setting expectations, and being mindful as things change here, especially going into the winter months.
Right. Yeah, good point. Brenda, social media strategy. I know both you and David do a great job with social media, but you've been very consistent before, during, after. I mean, you keep going, telling that story. And that's how a lot of your business is generated as well, right? And being known in that community. Maybe talk about some of the strategies you have with that, because I know there's some people in here that, heard video before and they want to do more of that, but don't know where to start. Maybe you can just talk about how you started and where you're at today with it.
So for social media, I am on Facebook and I am on Instagram and LinkedIn. I forget when I did the infamous my inaugural
I remember your first one.
video.
Was it in front of the fireplace. It was
Was
dark.
sitting
I
in-
thought she was like kidnapped, And I'm like, what the hell is this? I go, but Brenda, it's good. You did it. It's done. Send it.
And I got a listing appointment.
Yes, you did.
Yes,
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
So I started video maybe like even 5-ish years ago, you think?
Oh, wow.
And I always have my sunglasses on because I don't know always where to look on the phone so that's how I hide that. The biggest thing with social media is just consistency. So I always try to post something, ideally 5 times a week, but at least 3 or 4, I'll be like, okay, I did okay. But the ultimate goal is 5 times a week. I'm a weirdo and I don't want the same thing to be seen on Facebook that is seen on Instagram. If it's a closing, yes, you'll see the same shot, but I'm maybe not going to give the full story. My business is very relationship based. So you will on Facebook always learn about the story of the transaction. And truth be told, the fewer the words, probably the bigger the nightmare the transaction was. So I have some insight there. No comments about that though. Okay. And then with video, I ebb and flow. You can tell when something has really happened in my day that either frustrated me or really entertained me. It seems to be one or the other. And that's when I'll get that inspiration to do a quick video. I don't like the way I look on video. I don't like the way I sound on video, but I will tell you that I'm going to say 9 out of 10 of those videos are one take wonders. My daughter always knows when I'm shooting a video. She's like, yeah, I heard you come home, but you didn't come in the house. So you're shooting a video in the driveway. It's always in the car. But the consistency is key. And I look at that on my daily tracker too.
Being consistent,
Yep.
tracking what you're doing. And that's a trackable event, right? It's
Yep.
doing those videos each and every week, which are important. David, I know you do a ton of videos and you were kind of put to the challenge. I remember when we met a few months
Yeah.
back, but maybe we could talk a little about that and what your strategy is on social media.
Sure. So it was October of last year, and I was meeting a friend of mine at a conference down in Dallas, and he was like, "Hey man, like we should do a video every single day." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "For a year. If we do it every day for a year, we'll end up on stage and it'll be awesome." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I can't do this." And he was like, "No, you can do this. Whoever loses, we have to donate to a charity of our choice." And I'm like, "Oh man, ugh. All right, I'll do this. If you're gonna do it, I'll do it." And he dropped after 2 weeks. And 2 weeks ago, I finished my 365th video. Now I'll just talk about that for a second. That's okay, guys.
Yeah.
The first 30 days was a nightmare. I freaked out. Like I was panicking every day. It took me like an hour to think about what I wanted to say. I would type up a script. I'd use a teleprompter. I mean, I used every gimmick or gadget in the book to try to make it more professional. And by the end of it, I realized that it's not about being professional. It's about giving people relatable content from your voice. And doing it so often gave me the ability to find my voice, not just on video, but in general about real estate. By having to think about like, how do I say this? Like actually, it gave me time to actually think about certain keywords and subject matters that I thought I really knew a lot about. But when you have to talk about it on video, you're like, oh, wow, maybe I should take that 30 seconds to do a read. Someone said an arm loan earlier, Miller. And I was like, oh, wow, like I know what that is because I had to research it before I shot a video on that. But I think everyone gets nervous about video, but you got to remember this, guys, like don't be someone that you're not going to show up as, because when you show up on an appointment and someone already knows who you are, they already like you, they already trust you, they've already looked at 100 of your videos, it makes a difference. And, if you're the guy who wears a suit, wear a suit on camera. If you're the guy who has a backwards hat and a hoodie on, I'll wear that the same way, and I would say this, guys, don't worry about your views. Don't compare yourself to the people who get 18, 20,000 views. That might be you, but it's not something to shoot for. Consider it this way. If you get 50 people to watch a video, How long would it take you to call 50 people to give them that message? It's not that hard, guys. Just start doing it. And I promise you, it'll benefit you in more ways than you could ever imagine.
Michael, Fran. All right, so Fran, with, we talk about lead generation. We talked about in an earlier panel. Everyone has their own way of doing it. I know a lot of all your businesses come, a lot of it from a repeat referral business. What would you say, give us your top 1 or 2 lead pillars that you use. If it's database, great. How do you deepen a relationship with your database and stay consistent with it? No, it's okay. Go ahead.
So yeah, like 90+% of my business is repeat and referral. And I have a database, and don't ask me to program it. It's something I used at a company I worked for years and years ago before I got in real estate, and I'm just familiar with it. And I don't like to learn new things. So I hate flex. I got a new phone. I want to kill it. So anyway, this database, I can use it. I know how to use it. I can add fields to it easily. I'm just familiar with it. So if you have something that you're comfortable with, like I said before, what works for you is the one to use. And one thing I always started in this business, it's easy because at closings, everybody's license plate driver's license gets photocopied is people's birthdays. What is the most important day to people is like their birthday. So I have that in my database. I have everybody's birthday. So on their birthday, I send them a text or an email. We're like, it's amazing. They like that. And I always say I give the kind of service to other people that I expect when I go, when I go somewhere. So whether somebody is buying that $10,000 City of Schenectady home or $1 million home, you have to remember that's their castle. You give them the service that on each level they deserve, and then they give your name out to other people. You answer the phone. I would say to people, I always answer my phone, except right now, it's on silent. But I tell people, I make a joke out of it. I'm either asleep or I'm in a basement and it's setting up on the kitchen counter or something. But I always answer my phone. I don't. It's not rocket science. It's just developing what works for you and doing it again and again every day.
Well, I think, like you said, service people how you want to be served, right? And that's important to you to be able to do that. So, Chris, I know you do a lot as well. I don't know if all your business is 100% referral, but what are you doing on lead generation?
We're pretty strong repeat and referral as well. I use Top Producer. It's what my assistant's comfortable with. She was with a top producing agent before me, and she's been with me for about 6 years now. And every morning she prints out checklist or follow-up list that I need to go through, and it's just a great reminder, and I work off of that. A lot of our business is repeat and referral. It's relationships. It's treating people well. I always say if you take care of the customer, other business will come, the money will come. So take care of the customer first and foremost, no matter what the price range is, because you never know who they may know or may be related to. But when you first start off, and I know there's at least a good amount of agents just are getting going. It's hard. You take every opportunity, you hustle, you're all over the place. You're in areas that you may or may not want to be in, and we all, I think, have started there. And over time, it snowballs and activity breeds activity. And it gets to a point where you can be a little bit more selective. You can refer business to other agents. You can maybe pass on open houses and things of that nature as well. But we all started somewhere, and you have to start somewhere. So one thing just maybe my personality in general, but your reputation is everything you have. Your reputation with other agents, your reputation with attorneys and home inspectors, and how do you talk to people, how you respond to people, will get you so far in this business. So it's just something to keep in mind.
And what about when it comes to online leads? Anything that you're doing with that at all? Or I know you're smiling because it's
yeah. I mean, I think my wife started with me about 2.5 years ago, and we've been together 12 years. And I've been in the business 15, and I don't know why the heck I didn't have her doing social media and online things for me the first 10 years of our relationship or so, because it's not really my thing, but it's vitally important. And she picks on me to do more video, and I don't. And she goes, you can talk this business all day long. You're so knowledgeable and respected. Why don't you, and I go, you're better looking and you've got the communications background. You do it. So she's really taken that ball for us, which has been great. But people see and perceive that you're busy. even if you're not necessarily busy, perception is reality sometimes. So we've done very, very well in that facet, and it's something I would encourage everybody to find a way to do. Whether you hire out for it, you have a spouse do it, or you do it yourself. Give some time, like David has done with it.
Learn it. Yeah, awesome. Brendan, how about yourself? Lead generation and some different avenues that you go with that.
I am blessed that 90+% of my business is repeat and referral. I'm humbled by it every time. Closings are called closings for a reason. And I like generally miss my people when they're gone. So I always take the opportunity to stay in touch with them. So part of my morning routine is to go through Facebook, and whoever has a birthday, they get a happy birthday message from me. And also to do that quick keyword scroll, because we know we can get sucked into that for way too much time, to see what important life events are happening to them. Now the algorithm can screw up your contact with them, but did their kid lose a tooth? Did a parent pass away? What kind of things gives you an opportunity to reach out on that human level to them? I always tell people the first time I meet with them, I have one goal. My goal is to run into you at Hannaford or insert other store name here, and to have you not turn and run the other way. That's it. I mean, it's that simple. And throughout our journey together, I'm going to put a lot of emphasis on education and communication so that they get to their goal line. And then after that goal line and that closing, I stay in touch with them consistently. They get birthday cards with Stewart ice cream cones. They'll get a house anniversary card from me. They get a newsletter every other month. In a month, they will be at my client appreciation event. They'll leave with a pie, and while they're there, they'll have snacks and drinks on me. During the summer, the ice cream truck goes around my neighborhood, and everybody gets free ice cream.
Yeah.
What else do I do, Will?
You do a lot, but I covered for the most part. But again, it's deepening that relationship with those clients, right? And it's the closings when things really start.
Oh, here's one. So I'm the OG Scotia Glenville softball mom. So I always make sure that there's a banner with my face on it down at the field every day. Few doors up, somebody called me to sell their house this year. They had a friend, of course, who's a real estate agent, because who doesn't have 14 friends who are real estate agents? She goes, I have to go with you. You sponsored my daughter's team and you gave them ice cream.
Awesome. There you go. There's testimonial.
Yep.
All right. All right, David. So again, lead generation, what are you doing? I know, I know the social media is something that you said you don't get a ton of business from, right?
Sure.
But there's other things that you're doing. Maybe talk a little about that.
Absolutely. So I'm a prospecting based business that's marketing enhanced. And when I say prospecting, I'm not cold calling people from that I've never spoken to. I'm not circle dialing neighborhoods. I really took the cold calling prohibition or whatever it's been since COVID seriously. And it was like, oh, wow, like now we got to get creative. I make it my mission to contact and have communication with 13 people every single business day. And to do that, it means sometimes I have to go deep. I have to go on Facebook and look at this person and say, oh, I haven't spoken to this person forever. Like, what's something I can ask them about? Or I think of a memory of that person. And someone told me once, you don't have the right to ask for a referral from someone if you haven't spoken to them at least twice in the last like 180 days. And I was like, oh, I guess I better start talking to people. COVID was good for me in that sense because it gave me a reason to talk to people that wasn't real estate related. Because prior, so I'd be like, hey, do you know anyone who's thinking about buying or selling? No, Dave. Thanks. If you think of someone, call me. After COVID, I kind of learned how to say, hey, how can I help you? How's business? Is there something I can do to help you and your family? What's going on? Is there something in your house? Do you need a contractor who's reliable? No one can find a reliable contractor right now. Let me help you. And by going with some sort of service, like trying to contribute to those conversations, it's turned into a remarkable business. And like these other panelists who, again, I'll say this, I said this last night, I'm going to say it again in front of all of you guys. I'm so humbled to be here with you three because I've admired all three of you my whole career. 90% of my business is repeat and referral. And it's because I make those contacts every single day. I could do more newsletters and stuff, but for me, just picking up the phone and just having meaningful conversations with people, that's just made the difference in my business.
Awesome. All right, so keep the mic. I'm going to just keep with you. We got a few minutes left and we'll open up the Q&A. Give us a secret that no one knows about, David, or a secret that you can give to everyone about advice you would give them to be successful in today's market.
Start your morning early. The earlier you start your morning, as painful as it is, wake up before everyone else, because I promise you, if you're not waking up when me, Willie, and some other people I know are waking up, we're already so far ahead of you by the time 8 o'clock rolls around, and you have so much more clarity and purpose, and you're so much more primed to be successful. If you can start your day at 4:30, 5 o'clock, you'd be amazed with the results that you're going to have both professionally and personally.
I heard a couple sighs over here.
I was
35
never that guy. Like, I see Chris Cuba over there. He's probably like, that kid wakes up at 4:30 now. He used to wake up at 11. And when I woke up at 11, I had waking up at 11 results in my business.
All right, Brenda, secrets or secrets? One,
How about advice?
advice. Let's go with that.
Be yourself. Be yourself. Take the things that work for you in every little piece and part that you come across. But be yourself, because then you're going to find success.
Yeah, right. Because a lot of things that you may be saying up here might be very uncomfortable to say. And by them doing it, they won't be themselves, right?
Right.
And that's the point you're bringing. Okay, great. Chris.
I get a couple for you. I actually am now that guy too. I get up super early. But life has changed. I get two children under 5, and nobody's looking for me at 4:35, 5:30 in the morning. And you can focus. You
Right.
can focus on contracts and comps, and nobody's looking for you. I get distracted so easily. And we all know as the days go on, you get pulled in 100 different directions. Some different attention to detail. I'm critical of, and I think it's so important. Your relationships within the industry I've talked about multiple times. Be genuine, care. Remember that your clients are buying the biggest investment they'll ever buy. They're not buying a microwave. They communicate with other agents, treat people how you would want to be treated. And I'm very impressed. Like, I see people with notepads and taking note. Like, you guys all took your time today to come to this, to listen to me. Like, I'm just honored to be here, and this has been awesome. So thank you once again.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. One of the things too, we were joking about it before, but I think Christine said it about when we get an offer, a lot of times that comes from Chris, it's like, I want that. I want that offer. Where's Trish? Trish, you agree? Trish, she's like, oh my God, Chris just said it. Can we do business with him? And it's because the packet is, I've never seen it. It's organized, everything is there. Like, just kind of a takeaway. And I think maybe Chris, you can elaborate. Like, how many times you guys get offers, especially in a multiple offer situation where you're getting 6 different emails, right? And different things coming in, and they're all over the place. You're missing a check, you're missing a pre-approval. Chris's packets are down. I mean, can you elaborate on it all? Can you share your packet story? Because I just love his packet.
Yeah, I don't know when I really turned that corner. I think it's just, I'm super OCD, and like details just matter to me. And it's, middle initials and people's names, following the deed, paying attention to who owns property, paying attention to the taxes. I mean, we package it up. It's one PDF. It is not scattered. I wait for the mortgage letter. Like, sometimes I get myself in trouble because I'm waiting for the letter because I just want to send one clean PDF. I've had situations. I had a situation in Lansingburg. We had 5 offers. This is a few years ago now, pre-pandemic, and they were misspelling people's names on the. And I'm sitting with this family that's selling an estate, and they're like, we can't work with that. And I don't mean to be critical, but they're like, if this is how we're going to start, like, there's no way this thing is going to go well. So take the time. I mean, and I think what's happened the last couple of years is we're in such a rush because take the extra half hour to dot the I's and cross the T's. It matters so much because you're presenting that to somebody, and that's their first impression of you as the agent that they don't know, that they didn't hire. So, it's actually maybe a little dangerous how like paranoid about it I am, but my assistant's like, come on, let's go. And she takes everything to the 1 yard line, and I bring it to the finish line because I can't help myself. It's just me. It's just how I'm wired. So, and it's worked. It doesn't get me in trouble, so it's hard to deviate from that.
Right.
So,
Yeah, and it makes a difference. And again, if you guys are looking for takeaways and you're like, my paperwork's kind of crappy like that, it makes a difference, especially when you're multiple offers. So, Fran, what's the big secret?
Well, I kind of with Chris on I get up every day, especially in COVID, the first few weeks of, you had to stay home, noon, you're in your pajamas still. And I said, no, I'm not leaving my bedroom until I'm showered, dressed, have that mindset of being at work. So, every day out the door. When we used to have the separate keypads, I never understand. People would come to the office. They're like, oh, my keypad's not charged. I'm like, how do you just not go home at night and put that on the thing? So just be super organized. If you start to build your business, if you're not organized, you're never going to make it. I have cover sheet for my contracts. I have a little checklist inside my client folders. It's in the MLS. I ordered the sign, whatever. I posted it on Facebook, Instagram. If somebody covers for me when I'm away, I threaten them with death. Don't write on the outside of my folders. But you have to have systems, and just every day, if you do those things, other agents, it does carry weight with agents. When I get offers and, it'll be like, okay, I know this person's going to bring it across the finish line with me. They're not going to disappear midstream. That's super important. We are each the advocate for our clients. We're also the voice of reason, and we all play in the same sandbox over and over. So those relationships are important.
Fran, I know you said it earlier and you said it last night. I thought it was great about answering the phone. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Answer your goddamn phone. That's what I said last night. Where it is glued to every one of us. And if here's another thing. If your phone says that automated voice, you've reached 518-265-9295. Now I'm calling you. I don't know if I've reached the right person. How can you be in this business and not answer your phone? How can you be in this business and not say, okay, maybe you do 7 other things. You sell makeup and you do this and that, and you're also a real estate agent. I don't know. But you don't have to say, all right, it's Fran Callahan with Stage Nest Real Estate. If that's your case, you could but do say you're Fran Callahan, or say you're Fran Callahan. Go ahead, please. No, but identify yourself, answer your phone. And I don't know, when you say for a quicker response, text me, I think the same device is in your hand. And texting does have a purpose. It really does have a place for quick answers, but this is a person-to-person business. And sometimes a 30-second phone call saves, and hey, I am, I'm older. I'm getting doubled over. I'm getting lapped by people. I'm like, and I'm getting 3 responses already. So, I don't know, just keep that in mind, like how important. Sometimes there's no nuance or tone in an email or a text message. So
Can I add to that real quick?
Yeah.
Also call people, right? Like if you're going to write an offer to someone's house, like pick up the phone, call them before you write the offer, say what's important, what are you looking for, and then let the listing agent know you've sent an offer. Like we aren't all perfect. Sometimes your offer will go to junk, and like you might miss out on an opportunity just because you didn't pick up the phone. And I promise you, like these 3 and other agents that you see in this room will be calling the listing agent every single time. So be included in that group. Have those conversations because it makes a difference.
The other big thing is when you wait, you listen to their whole voicemail, and then it says, voicemail is full. Right? That's my biggest pet peeve.
Questions.
All right, we're
2
gonna
quick
open up to
questions.
questions. 3 we got. Who
3
got?
questions.
3 questions. Yeah, that one over here.
Okay.
Joe? All right, go ahead, Christine.
As being in the business, it sounds like you guys 2007, and Fran a little bit earlier you started. What one thing, whether activity or mindset, do you have right now planned for the change of the market that we have coming or is here?
for me, I'm just going to do the same thing I've done for the last 21 years. 22.
It's a great question. I haven't given that one much thought, but I'm 15 years in, so you get to a certain point where you wake up on January 1st, you expect to do a certain amount of business. And thankfully I've been trending upward, but at some point or another, you might have to reevaluate. It's been a great run. We've had a lot of low inventory before the pandemic. That's gotten even tighter and tighter. Thankfully, I would like to think I'm established enough and have the relationships enough. But, part of the reason I like going to these conferences, and I don't go to all of them, but you pick up tidbits of information that you can work with. I remember Matt Farrar, I went out to Foxwoods years ago, and he did a Facebook thing, and he's hitting like, thinking of you. And it just stuck with me. Like you pick up one thing at all these conferences. But to get back to your question, I've got to give that some more thought. I'm used to waking up on January 1st and knowing I'm going to go out and do a certain amount of business. And I think staying involved, staying mindful, working those relationships will be very meaningful going forward, because at some point or another, it's going to turn here, and who knows what, maybe it's just a correction, and hopefully that's all it is. But we have a lot of agents in the industry. We don't have enough inventory, and people are being more conservative now than they were 6 months ago, or certainly a couple of years ago. So
I'd say block the noise. There's a lot of noise in this business. Control what you can control. And remember that real estate never dies. Life always happens. And it will require real estate.
I'll say 3 things. 1, do gratitudes. Like if you're feeling bummed out, like I do 10 things I'm grateful for every single morning. And it's really hard to be in a bad mood when you do that. Number 2, prospect, like make contacts. You are in control of how many, like we are in the lead gen business. Everyone thinks we're in real estate. People think we're in real estate to open doors, do this, that. Well, no, we are in the lead gen business. If you're not generating leads, you're at the result of the leads you have. And that might not be productive for you guys. And thirdly, stop buying dumb stuff, right? No, seriously though, like look at be on top of your budgets. You know, over the last couple of years when money's been flush, it's been easy to buy those extra pair of, Cole Haans, or, just do dumb things like, oh God, but you know what? Now's the time where we have that uncertainty. So control your budget and make sure you're not spending money on stuff you don't need.
So I've been hearing a lot about lead generation, but for newer agents or seasoned agents or entrepreneurs like myself, there's a lot of back end office things that you must do when you're home. What are some key back end office things that you realize that you need to do that could possibly change your business? What systems did you implement to create a higher standard for yourself to change that business?
Always prioritize. Like Willie actually recommended I read a book a couple months ago called Eat the Frog. Like every morning when you wake up, you guys all know there's something that makes you sick to your stomach. Like you all know, like, oh, I gotta call that for it. Proactively attack the stuff that makes you sick. Do that stuff first. Get it out of the way, because whether it's prospecting, whether it's shooting a video, whether it's calling the person who's like the buyer bailed on like a week before closing, bad news, there's no good time for it. But if you don't take care of that first, it eats up bandwidth and you just end up wasting time throughout the day. And in terms of systems, if you don't know what to do, just ask someone who's successful. Kind of what everyone else been saying, find someone who can hold you accountable and find someone to role model yourself after, and try to figure out what's the highest and best use of your time and focus on that, because the rest will figure itself out.
All right, do we have any other questions? Once, going twice. Anyone else want to add to that? Brenda, you want to add?
I'll add to that question real quick, Joe. I have a very high-tech system. It's a clipboard. Every night before I go to bed, I write down what has to be done the next day. Therefore, I don't have to think about it while I'm sleeping. And I'm that weirdo who will do it and then go write it down so I can cross it out.
So, Chris, something you said about who you are as a person stuck out to me. I'm that OCD person. I come from a military background, so everything was structured, scheduled, had to be on time, this way and that way, and that was it. So I get it. And I want to thank Jillian here, because she and I, bounce off on each other, and she really helped me formulate how to formally submit an offer. Like everyone on here said, I always call that agent first. I put everything together in one simple document. I put that highlights of this transaction, this, that, and the third in the next paragraph. And then I'll call that agent again and say, hey, did you see it? Now, unfortunately, in this world of real estate, a lot of agents haven't gotten the memo about camaraderie. We know that there's the absentee agent, but how do you deal on a day-to-day agent when you get those agents who are not assisting? Because we all have skin in the game. And I think once we have an offer accepted, it is about my client and you are about yours. But how do you formulate with another agent that camaraderie where we both got skin in the game? Let's both see this deal to the end.
that's a great question. I think maybe you have to ask them how they prefer to communicate. I'm just, do they like the text, like the email, or like the phone call? When are they available? Because you have to play nice in the sandbox, and you're gonna have to work with that person. And I view that, the real estate agents in the transaction, they're the quarterback. They're the quarterback. No, none of this, oh, we'll pass it to the attorney, or the attorney will clean it up. Like, that's ridiculous to me. You're right. First of all, look at the amount of money we make for a transaction. Look at what an attorney makes for a transaction. We make very good money. And I almost think it should be mandatory that you have to be at a home inspection, no matter what side you're on, at least part of it on the selling side, and appraisal. I mean, think of your hurdles in a transaction, right? I mean, there's not that many, but I think, the question would be, how do you prefer to communicate? Or you have to butter them up. You have to play nice. You have to find somebody that knows them to get to them, or, you know what I mean? So, yeah. Yeah. And sometimes you just do it. You just
Fran, Can
do it.
you elaborate on that one? People hear that.
I was just saying, if you have to recognize, if I have a transaction, not a deal, transaction try to elevate ourselves with a newer agent, I'm assuming, maybe they're not as skilled, I'm a little more mindful of what I might have to do, but no matter who the other agent is, if they're sort of dropping the ball, we need to get that across the finish line. We need to complete the transaction. So if I have to pick up the slack, I do it.
All right.
All
Awesome.
right.
What do you guys think about that panel, huh?
All right.